Hi.
And welcome back to the Spiritual Lounge with Courtney
And Nina.
and Oliver.
Our mascot at
Literally,
this point.
he hangs with us. He's,
Yeah, it's our emotional support dog.
Literally.
Yeah.
Like, not joking. Love him. But yeah, this week we want to talk a little bit on Moldavite.
Probably one of the most controversial crystals
Yes.
on the planet.
It's very interesting. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Moldavite.
Yes.
Nina, can you explain what Moldavite is?
Sure. So Moldavite is very interesting because it blends space and the heavens with earth.
Yeah.
So Moldavite is it's kind of a crystal, but technically it is called a tektite.
Is it kind of like a meteor kind of thing?
So it was formed when a meteor hit the earth.
Oh.
And so it's a combination of space rock and, organic minerals from our planet. So you have that like dual energies going on, that's always a unique thing because outer space, and the different galaxies, they have a unique energy to them that is very different from the energy of our planet, of Earth. And
it's potent as hell. I will tell you that.
Oh my gosh. So it's going to have a bit more of a green color to it.
Yeah.
It has a little bit of a glass-like appearance.
Yeah.
It's very textured. We will provide lots of photos.
Yes.
And anytime you look it up too, you're going to typically find it in small pieces.
Like very small. And it's expensive.
It is expensive. So that's a little rule of thumb. If you're getting Moldavite for like less than $50, that's a red flag. Probably not under $100
You're
either.
definitely going to have to find like a very good source to get it from.
You need to find a good crystal store to buy it from. And it should also come with an authenticity card.
I think, and the thing is, a lot of crystals don't, but like that one almost
and it's fine.
Does.
Most crystals you do not need an authenticity. You don't need that with your rose quartz.
Yeah.
You're fine. But when it comes to Moldavite, you really do. You want to make sure
that pretty penny on it.
Yes, because unfortunately, there's a lot of scammers out there, and there's a lot of even crystal stores that don't know that they've been scammed. It's kind of sad. So make sure your piece of Moldavite comes with
authentication.
With a card. And
so we want to talk a little bit about our experiences with it.
So that was like a little rundown on what Moldavite is and
what to
look for when buying. But don't be concerned when you're looking up Moldavite online and all of the things for sale are really small pieces.
Yes.
Moldavite has such a potency to it. You do not need a massive piece of it. You don't want a massive piece of it.
And on top of it, I feel like when we go into crystal stores and see it, it's normally like in a glass case because it's just so potent and it doesn't do well with a lot of other crystals.
No, it's funny. I actually have I have a funny crystal store story about this. So for those who don't know, I do work at a crystal store. I'm also a professional tarot reader. But sometimes I will have people come in and they're hanging out over by the Moldavite. They're not necessarily looking for Moldavite, but we have our Moldavite necklaces hanging where we have a lot of our higher end necklaces. Yeah. And so they'll be looking at other necklaces. And I've had this happen 2 times in the last month, one to a woman and one to a man, where they're like have a headache. They have to, they're getting kind of like very, they're not feeling too hot and they end up leaving.
Really?
Yeah, this has happened twice in the last month.
Dang.
Now, this doesn't mean I really
We're
feel like
scaring you guys on this.
I feel like if you're listening to this podcast, you're a spiritual person.
Yeah.
And you understand energy. Energy is nothing new to you. But if you're kind of what I call more of a normie, Moldavite might
freak you out a little bit.
You might feel it more so than others.
I'm gonna be honest with you. Like I feel like I was more in my normie phase when I got into it, and I was
I think we should start with your story with Moldavite because I mean
it was like interesting. Okay, yes, let's do this.
Well, hold on. First, we should say why should you get a piece of Moldavite?
Yes, okay.
And that's because you want
transformation and change. Yeah, and that's really where I came into it. Like I was working with somebody, and they were like, "Hey, like your spirit guides and." We're thinking like if you're open to it, like Moldavite would be a really great thing. Yeah. Let me tell you about it first. Was like what I was first told. Like it's very intense. There's a lot of energy with it, but it brings in a lot of change in your life. And they were like, but you have to be open to the fact where you might lose things that were never meant to be yours. Which in times you're like, oh yeah, okay, sounds great. Well, I got Moldavite as I was leaving the corporate world, and it was just like, bam, shift. Guess what? You're gonna start a business. bam, shift, you're going to find your person. Bam, shift, you're going to sell your house. Like, it was just like, all right, here we go. And
buckle up.
Yes. And like, they all were wonderful things I did. Like, you know, but it does, people get fearful because it changes your life when you have it around. And it's very potent. Like, for me, you know, I got this little piece.
You were saying you weren't even wearing it.
No,
right?
I would leave it in my house. Like, it was this space in my house, and oh my God, it was in between like my living room and kitchen and the place that I owned. And I would walk in, and you're like, ooh, okay, feeling that. But it got to a point with it where I feel like me and the Moldavite kind of like jived after like these changes were coming through. And it was funny because I was told after you've had like your journey with Moldavite to gift it to somebody.
Pass it along.
As like into like kind of that next person for them to be able to go through that change and shift. Obviously, don't just like, hey friend, I got you something. And make sure you like, they've consented to like, hey, I'm looking for kind of a shift in my life. But it's a very, very powerful crystal, and I'm so grateful I took the journey. But people get so scared, and I get why, you know, the shift in it. But
well, and this is why I would say, like, you know, one of our big hopes with this podcast is giving people information, but also like practical tips that they can use for their life. And this is why we both talk about having a toolkit, right? That you can pull from, because when you're going through changes, it really does activate the nervous system.
And it can feel intense.
Change is change. It's amazing, you know, and
even if you love change, it's still tough.
Things are getting shook up.
Yeah.
And you are having to create like a new equilibrium with all of that. And so that's why we are such big believers in things like sound baths and things like getting a reading done, right? Because it helps you find your center, and it helps you deal with change in a way that's gonna
sustainable way.
Yes, and that where you can actually be excited about it and enjoy things, because
it's not pure chaos. You learn to kind of like rein in what you can control.
Absolutely.
Well, speaking of that, let's take a quick pause here. We're gonna have Nina do her reading for the week.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to channel the energy of Moldavite and see what change you can look forward to in your life.
As we have this kind of fun, this is actually my birthday week, so I love it. It's all on like the change and everything crazy. We didn't plan this, but I thought that would be kind of fun.
I know. So, I love when things just work out like that.
I know.
Divine timing.
Seriously. Well, we'll see you guys in a couple minutes, and we'll be back.
Bye. Hello, and welcome to your weekly tarot reading here on the Spiritual Lounge podcast. As always, I'm Nina, and today we're going to be talking about the energy of Moldavite, and we're going to be looking energetically into this. So when I was getting these cards together, I wasn't even shuffling, but one just fell out, and I feel like this sums up Moldavite and whether or not you should use this perfectly. And that is, just so happens to be my favorite card in the entire tarot deck, the High Priestess. Now, this is a card of intuition. This is a card of, it really symbolizes like the witchy woman. It really is the woman on her spiritual journey. And this sums up Moldavite perfectly, because when it's time for you to introduce Moldavite into your life and into your spiritual practice, you will know. You will know without a shadow of a doubt, because it will feel so right. And that's what I want you to trust yourself with Moldavite, and really anything else on your spiritual journey. You need to go within. It will be a clear yes or no. If it feels like a maybe, that's a no. Okay, I know that can sound a little bit extreme, but I want you to get into the habit of relying on your own intuition a bit more. Now, if you're feeling totally like overwhelmed with things, that's probably a time when you're not going to make any big decisions, right? If you're feeling very clouded with your intuition, if you are doing card readings on yourself, or doing any form of divination, using a pendulum, whatever, and you're not getting clear answers, give it a rest for a minute. Again, we put ourselves on these timelines and feel like we have to have it figured out so quick. Time is really just a 3D kind of concept. You're never going to be, like, there's no time limit for your spiritual journey, and the right thing is always available to you no matter what. Ollie definitely agrees with that. But the High Priestess really is the card here for Moldavite. It is trust your intuition when it comes to whether or not you should invest in Moldavite. Moldavite is very powerful, and if you're having second thoughts on it, it's a no, okay? It's gonna be a yes and it's going to be really strong when it is the right time for you to get Moldavite. And that's for me. I didn't start using Moldavite until 6-8 weeks ago. That's crazy, especially considering that, I'm kind of like a professional witchy person at this point, and I hadn't used Moldavite because it wasn't right, and I trusted that. And now that I've used it, it's working out really well. So that is, I think, the most beautiful card that you could get with this episode too, regarding Moldavite, regarding any kind of spiritual stuff, is tune into yourself. You know the answer. And Ollie agrees. So with that, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. Continue listening to the episode for my take on my experience with Moldavite. It's very career focused. You're not going to want to miss it. And yeah. So
welcome back. I hope you guys enjoyed that beautiful forecast from Nina for the week and tarot reading. We are now going to come on and talk a little bit about
my Moldavite story, because I have been wearing it.
So intense. Like at first she's like, I bought Moldavite and I'm wearing it. I'm like,
yeah. Okay. So I have it in necklace form and I really like it. I like the look of it too.
It's beautiful. It is beautiful.
I cannot wear it all the time because my energy gets a little
it does.
It's a lot.
It's almost like a little tad draining.
It is.
Because there's so much
my energy almost gets so heightened that I feel really ungrounded. So I have to put a bunch of I'm fortunate I work at a crystal store, so I have access to pretty much anything I need in the moment. I love. I know.
I totally come to her being like, Nina, I feel like this. She's like, hold these crystals. I'm like,
essentially, yeah.
So much does. I love it.
Yeah. So I've started wearing it the last, I'd say, probably 6 weeks, and it's been interesting. Yeah. It has really sped up a couple timelines that I felt like I was just having no movement on.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, I was wanting my own tarot reading business to go to the next level. And I kind of mentioned, I think it was in our 11/11 portal episode, where I was talking about I had been trying to manifest having a physical place to do readings, which I did manifest, and it all kind of came together really quickly. Now I will say that was totally, I think, thanks to in part me actually wanting that for myself, but also the Moldavite sped it up for sure.
Pushed it to...
Yeah, because there wasn't a lot of movement on that front for a while. And then also I feel like when you're kind of in a certain energy, inertia sets in, and you're kind of like, well, I'll just keep pushing this off into the future.
Yeah.
But I've really been just I don't even want to say putting myself out there more, because
but it's almost like taking a step back to move forward. And I feel like the Moldavite just projected that
for you. Oh my gosh. And I've just been making so many more connections with people. I have way more clients. It's wild, but it has forced me to step into a next level as well. Yeah. So, there has been this time where there's an adjustment period with the Moldavite.
Yes.
It sped things up. It sped up that timeline, and I'm very happy about that. But I've been navigating a way busier schedule.
Yeah.
I've been navigating just taking a lot more initiative in my own life, and being on top of things too, right? When you have clients and you have people hey, when can I get a reading with you? It's okay, let's do it.
We're lighting the fire.
And it's it's amazing, but it's whew, this is what I wanted. But I think I'm kind of on the other side of it now, this adjustment period. But
100%.
It was so uncanny how it was just all happening with this Moldavite.
I love it.
And again, I was already on this path doing this kind of thing.
100%.
I've been reading tarot for others for 8+ years at this point.
Years and years.
So it's not like this is a brand new business for me, but this whole in-person, becoming more well-known in Scottsdale, where we're based in, it's been interesting. It really, not that I
pushed you to that next level.
It did, and not that I didn't think it was going to work, because I've heard so many stories from very reputable people regarding Moldavite, but it's I was wondering how true that would be for me, and it was.
And everyone's journey is different, you get this stone and it affects you differently. Me, it just flipped everything.
Yeah.
And for you, it's it accelerated, because, and maybe that's a piece of it too. I was always told with Moldavite that it directs you onto your path.
I was literally just going to say that.
So it's because for you, it moves you forward into your path. And for me, it was flip, girl, you ain't doing that anymore.
Yeah,
we're gonna try
and
something new.
You met your person.
Yeah, it was like
and you're
meet your
married.
person,
Like that business, happened like
quickly, and so I think it is. It's so different.
Like this podcast has kind of come to be with.
Yeah, the same thing. It was like, at the same time we were like, hey, we should do this. This would be great. Let's start this. And then it's like, bam, here we are.
Here we are. So, moral of this story is Moldavite will speed up a timeline that you're currently on, or if you're on one that is totally wrong for you, that it is just not at all aligned with your higher good, that timeline is going to fall away.
And it'll shift.
So it will shift into something so much better. You're going to have to probably rely on some faith with that.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to...
Yeah. But you know what? I feel like at the end of the day, I'm so glad I started the journey on it. I'm so glad,
Me too.
I took it. People
I needed that little push too.
And people talk about it all the time. Like, oh man, are we going to get there? Is it terrifying?
Yeah.
It can be in moments, but I think you just knowing, again, with our toolkits, like ground yourself, know what you're walking into, take it slow, know that these things are going to come in. And I think just, being okay with change.
And then, like we just say in every episode, having that toolkit to help you through that transition.
So important.
Yeah. Sound baths.
Yeah.
To help you
Tarot
relax.
readings. To tell you kind of like guiding you into it. It's so helpful when Nina does. I come to her all the time and I'm like, hey, okay, where
what
are we
does
going
this
next?
look like?
Yeah.
What's the timeline on this?
Yes. Yeah. And Moldavite kind of just like pushes that along. Like,
exactly.
Oh, okay,
and coming. Especially if you're working towards like what you're truly desiring in life. Sometimes it feels a little scary. So to have a reading done by a third party who does not know you, who is not invested in your life, who has no bias, that can be a beautiful thing because it can kind of alleviate some of those like, am I delulu? Is this crazy?
Where is this coming from? What should we do?
So
it's very helpful.
And both of these things they support you and
your nervous system and recreating your life
and your Moldavite journey.
Yes, exactly. Aw. Well, thanks for joining us here today. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We will pass you off to a sound bath now.
And if you have any wild Moldavite stories,
oh my gosh,
you need to share them with us because they're just so fun. And no two are the same.
No,
which
is always so different for everybody.
And it's like exactly what you need when you need it.
Yes, it comes in at the right time. You'll know. You'll kind of get called. It's like, oh, I'm kind of curious. Yeah. You'll see it and you'll either gravitate toward it or you'll be in the back of your mind and kind of come back to that in the future.
Yeah. So. Love it.
Beautiful. Well, we will see you guys next week.
Oh, and be sure to wish Courtney a happy birthday.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much. 33.
My gosh.
The new year.
Talk about angel numbers.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful year. It's a power year.
It is. I'm excited. Oh, well, thank you guys for joining us, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. See you later. Hello, and welcome to this mindful moment. Thanks for joining me this week. This week on the podcast, we talked a little bit about Moldavite. And this beautiful stone has these crazy changing properties that help you transform your life and change and really align yourself onto, your highest self's path. And so I thought it would be fitting to do a little grounding meditation and just really kind of help you relax. So let's start by taking a few moments, closing down our eyes, finding a comfortable place, taking a few deep breaths. In through your nose and out through your mouth. And in through your nose and out through your mouth. While we envision this beautiful stone, Moldavite, we can feel its fierce powers. All the energy coming from outer space, bringing alignment and clarity to you, helping you realign onto your life's path. Let's take a few breaths to really ground ourselves in through our nose. And out through our mouth. One more time, in through our nose. And out through our mouth. Envisioning us grounding to the earth, our feet sticking into the earth, through the middle, through the center, through the bottom of the earth, and connecting through to truly ground us in this moment and for this day. As we slowly come back into the room, we wiggle our fingers and toes, blink open our eyes. We feel refreshed, grounded, and safe. Thank you for joining me here for this mindful moment. I hope you enjoyed this. Oliver even came in to say hello at the end. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of your week. Bye.